welcome back. You're watching Rebooting Brand India, powered by Brand Equity, and I'm Sonali Krishna. And now we've entered the most exciting part of the show. As promised, I have with me today a very high-profile panel that will scrutinize these three ads and come to a consensus on which campaign is the most effective to reboot and reposition India as the emerging superpower on the world stage. The panel really needs no introduction. On my right, I have Member of Parliament, former Ministry of State for External Affairs, and the prize-winning author of 12 previous books, both fiction and non-fiction, Shashi Tharoor. In fact, I believe he's released his latest book, Pax Indica, earlier this week. Thank you so much for joining us, Shashi. On my left, I have the Golden Globe-winning director Shekhar Kapoor, who is known to make his lush international period films such as Elizabeth, The Four Feathers, and Indian hits like Mr. India and Bandit Queen. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kapoor. And to his left, I have the internationally critically acclaimed Indian actor Nandita Das, who is known for her path-breaking performances in alternate and mainstream cinema. Thank you so much for joining us, Nandita. And last but not the least, joining us from our Delhi studio is none other than Amitabh Kant, the CEO and Managing Director of the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor Development Corporation and the former Joint Secretary under the Union Ministry of Tourism. In fact, Amitabh was single-handedly responsible for the country's flagship Incredible India campaign, the campaign that built a brand away from the stereotypes of snake charmers and touts lingering at tourist hotspots to better capture India's new dynamism. Thank you so much for joining us, Amitabh. At the outset, I'd first like to take the opportunity to thank each one of you for taking time out and joining us today for our special initiative. Our esteemed panel has seen all the three campaigns, and now it's time for them to put on their judging hat and really delve deep and scrutinize the three campaigns. As explained earlier, these campaigns are targeted at the global investor and is meant to change the popular perception of India globally that several economic as well as political factors are working in concert to dampen the phenomenal India growth story. And that India is, in fact, not so emerging and shining after all. Well, with that, I'd like to throw it open to the floor. I'd like to start with you, Shashi, first. We'd like to critique the first ad that you saw, which was JWT, your opening remarks and critique on it.
Well, they had two ads, right?
Yes,
the first one, I rather liked, Wealth Where You Least Expect It. I thought some of the images are particularly effective. The farmer washing the buffalo and then the Mercedes, Wealth Where You Least Expect It, great concept. Some of the others, a policewoman with a compact or the vegetable vendor with the watch, I was less excited by, but the idea I thought was a winner, and it ties into the message Invest in India. The world would like to have our problems, I thought, was disastrous.
Okay.
You don't actually tell somebody abroad, we're bad but you're worse. It's a lousy message both about us and about them, and I don't think it'll persuade anybody.
Okay. So, I mean, you're saying of the two campaigns, you thought that the campaign which had...
Wealth Where You Least Expect It is a very interesting thing to encourage people to invest. It ties into the whole bottom of the pyramid theory, that you can actually make money in India off poor people, all of that stuff. And it's an interesting idea to say to investors, look, there's potential here, even if you're hearing bad stuff.
Right.
That's not a bad idea. And I think it can be improved. Perhaps some of the other images could match, but the concept I thought was a winner. Right. I certainly was completely unimpressed by the second one.
Okay, so you're disregarding the second campaign completely. Okay, moving to you, Shekhar, your first views on the JWT campaign.
I agree with Shashi. It was an attractive imagery. It was an even to me as an Indian, if I'm watching somebody washing bulls and suddenly going on to Mercedes with the same hose and patting it down like it was his own thing, is a cute image. There's a certain cuteness to it, which Shashi says, so it's attractive. So emotionally, anything works for anybody. Whether you're going to invest after looking at that, you're going to say, yeah, I know that they have people who can buy this, but emotionally, I liked the one which is Wealth Where You Least Expect. I agree with Shashi. The next one, it's like, okay, all right. No.
Let's hear you out, Nandita.
To be honest, for me, it was also very predictable. While the images are cute and nice, and we all know, oh, it's nice for a fisherwoman or somebody having a cell phone, or, you know, somebody who's selling in a shop or making chai and has a glossy watch, or somebody has a fake bag logo up there. But I think it was, it didn't do much for me. The problem part, the second aspect of it, like Shashi said, that the world might as well, what's the line? That the world would be happy to have our problems?
Actually, they won't.
Yeah, firstly, they don't really, first of all, identify what those problems are. Okay, I understand it's not possible to do that in a campaign, but even in their brainstorming, because once you know what that is, you wouldn't gloss over it in the same way. I don't think we would want the problems that we have today, so how can we even expect that the world would be happy to have our problems? And India being such a complex country, I wasn't very thrilled with the concept either. I mean, in the other campaigns when we'll talk, sometimes I felt the idea was still better than the execution, but here I felt even the idea didn't do too much for me.
Fair enough, fair enough. So basically, you're disregarding both campaigns of JWT. In a nutshell. Yeah, great. Amitabh, if we can have you on in now and your view on the first campaign, JWT.
Well, first of all, let me say that this is a fairly complex and intricate exercise of trying to reboot India. It's also very important that in a campaign we must be absolutely clear that what is the positioning of the destination that we are taking in terms of an investment destination, and also what segment of the investors we are looking at and positioning and marketing. And to my mind, the second aspect of the campaign, that is the world has problems, was a no-go, totally a no-go. I mean, you can't build an investment destination by destroying other destinations. But the first one about wealth where you least expect it was nice, it was creative, it had some good imagery, it had some fascinating aspects. The first one was fairly nice. I mean, it was a nice campaign, but nothing greatly revolutionary.
Let's move on to the second campaign by Ugilvi. Your opening thoughts on Ugilvi.
I was a bit underwhelmed. I'll say I like the tagline, "Numbers don't lie in Western India," but I thought that though they had an interesting concept of getting, I guess, fake foreign CEOs and foreign CEOs to talk about India, the stereotypes were so preposterous that you knew they couldn't be taken seriously, and therefore demolishing them could not be taken seriously. I don't know. I mean, I got what they were trying to do, and I don't think they pulled it off. I mean, having somebody saying you can't sell cars because every family has a bullock cart, I mean, it's not serious. And then, you know, showing the headlines X% growth doesn't in itself, I think, do much. They could have worked, I think, something different with the concept that numbers are working well. I've often felt that, you know, here we're growing at 5.9%, Brazil grew at 0.8%, and people are saying India is the first crumbling brick. It's simply unfair. But we aren't doing as badly, just on the basis of numbers, as people are implying we are. Something could have been done with that. I'm not sure this is it.
Okay, fair enough. Shekhar?
Actually, I like the idea a lot.
Okay.
I like the idea because basically what's asking you to do is go beyond perception. Because in a world of huge kind of information being pummeled at you all the time, even the greatest investor, the largest investor sometimes, falls into the trap of global perception or media perception. And I liked the idea because it was saying, go beyond immediate perception. That's good. It's asking you to question, is the current perception prejudice or reality? That's really what it's saying. But it's not well done. It's really not well done.
So you're saying it fell short in execution?
Yeah, if I was sitting there, I would have said, go back, take this idea, give me something much better executed, much more believably executed.
Right.
But it's an interesting way to attack the problem.
I think the idea was funny, it was creative, but that irony doesn't come through. When you actually see those fake CEOs, you don't get to know anything. You don't know that they are, I mean, you know they are lying, but in that little segment, you don't get a sense. They are in fact reinforcing that stereotype. If I come midway in that campaign, I'd be completely confused as to what is really happening. Why are they talking like this? Firstly, they don't look believable at all. Secondly, they don't look like they are having a great time here, but they are trying to stop other competitors from coming in. So I think, again, the idea was quite creative, and humor always can grab you. But it was almost like they were wanting to do some kind of a black humor, but the execution was, I don't know, very, very flat, and somehow didn't bring out what they really wanted to.
I'd like to say this very clearly once more, and I'm sure Shashi will agree with me. The internet cannot be an excuse for bad execution. I know that they said it's going to be a viral campaign, but the assumption that the internet can accept not well done execution is wrong.
That's a common problem. I think everybody faces. I mean, clients believe that if it's on the internet, it doesn't have to be high production.
No, it's not true.
So, Amitabh, you heard the three panelists in Bombay all, they all like the idea, but somehow they think the execution left a lot to be desired.
Yeah. To my mind, from an investor's viewpoint, there's nothing better than word of mouth, and there's nothing better than talking about success stories, and especially from those who succeeded in India. So if you get people who talk about India becoming a center of compact car manufacturing or achieving great amount of success, it's a very good deal. Also, I think a campaign must have a sense of humor, so which is sadly lacking in most of the great creative campaigns around India. And I think humor brings in that additional edge into a campaign. But this particular campaign from Ogilvy was totally missing in terms of creativity. I mean, there was very poor execution, but I expected far more additional amounts of creativity, which, after all, you're trying to do a campaign for an international audience. You're trying to do it for the CEOs of the world, and you're trying to attract them to invest in India. And they are some of the most sophisticated segments of the market, and therefore this campaign fails very poorly in terms of creativity.
In fact, when in the brainstorming, when they talked about it and said you'd hear it from the horse's mouth, I thought, oh, that's a smart one. That, you're kind of mixing interestingly. You're not fictionalizing anything. You're going straight, talking to these CEOs. But that's why it was a bit of a surprise that they didn't really take it.
So, Amitabh, what you're suggesting is that you would have appreciated the campaign better if they had actually got these CEOs to talk about what a great ride they've been having in the Indian market. Is that what you're suggesting? Or have I got you wrong?
No, I mean, there are a whole range of, to my mind, India has done very well in a vast range of areas across pharmaceuticals, across automobiles. And the ideal thing would be to try and get the existing CEOs of some of these companies to speak on their experiences. A campaign has to be experiential in character. It must be passionate. It must appeal to the heart of the investor, and the investor must realize that this is the only destination where I must invest and make money, and that passion was missing. I mean, it just didn't hit you in the heart.
Right. Fair enough. Let's move on to the third campaign done by BBDO India. Now, their suggestion was that, changing global perception cannot be done by a single ad campaign. It needs to be a movement of sorts, and hence you saw that entire suggestion. That's what they were proposing. I'd like your opening comments on BBDO.
Well, I liked a couple of things in the brainstorming very much. I certainly liked them coming up with the notion that if you love yourself, the world can love you. That's true, and that was a great insight. I love the little thing about, the minus negative sign. You add I for India, you make it positive. How clever. But I'm afraid the Oprah idea made the whole thing fall flat on its face. First of all, Oprah is never going to do it, so it's academic. Secondly, the examples they gave are all wrong. I mean, Oprah did not wear a sari before the other people they showed wearing a sari. They'd all worn a sari independently and earlier. Hooking India's fortunes to Oprah's image is seriously problematic for all sorts of reasons we can go into in more detail. So if their idea is you're going to sell India by having one celebrity take on India, Oprah is not going to do it. I mean, she's got too many other fish to fry, and she would not want to compromise herself with any one country as an assignment, but nor would any other individual leader. So I just think the concept is fundamentally flawed, even though the idea that you want to somehow convey that you're such a lovable country, you love yourself, everyone loves you, wearing little badges saying I love India doesn't do it. I mean, every country has its equivalent. Everyone says they love their own country.
You're wearing one, though.
And I'm wearing this one, exactly. The national flag. So they lost me there. I mean, I thought of the three brainstormings. Theirs was the one that excited me the most.
Absolutely.
And their campaign just let me down.
Okay, fair enough.
If Oprah put her shoulder behind investors in India, I'm sure she could make some difference. But it's a little sad that with everything else that we should be able to say, if it's true that India is a great destination, that we need Oprah to sell it. There must be better ideas than having Oprah selling it. I mean, I'd rather have Shashi go out.
Oh, thank
And yeah, no, really, no, Shashi, because at least I'm showing confidence in my own country.
Yeah.
I'm by showing confidence in yourself, there is a certain lack of confidence in oneself that you say,
Absolutely.
because we're not promoting tourism. Like Oprah saying, hey, I went to India, I love it, you go to India, I can understand that. But Oprah saying, you got to invest in it, it's a great country. I'm not sure. I don't really see what they're getting at.
When it started off, I thought, wow, that's interesting. It's almost philosophical. It almost goes with the kind of spiritual understanding as Indians that we have. You love yourself. You know, the world will love you. It's about your own confidence. It's about your own self-esteem. And the person also said it's not an ad. An ad is not just an ad. It's an act. Yeah. So I thought, okay, it's not going to be a tokenism. It's not going to be about putting a flag in your, no offense meant. Sure. You do much more than that. But, you know, it's not going to be, and then to narrow it down to, first of all, a foreigner. I mean, I was glad it wasn't going to be jingoistic, at least in the way they were talking, that we're not just going to be patriotic for the sake of it, but actually believe that there is something worthwhile, that we want to make ourselves proud of who we are. And then to have a foreign celebrity, whoever that may be, you know, to be our champion, and then to say that because we wear saris and we do Bollywood dance, and I mean, I think it's very, very stereotypical. I would not even think that an Indian celebrity would do it, because we, again, with, you know, due respect, but it's just that any one person, if we are saying each one of us is as Indian and can be, and each one of us can be an ambassador, and it's about you loving yourself and me loving, it's very personal. So I thought the idea was really great, but this whole thing of, you know.
As you guys are talking, it just occurred to me that nobody thought of, if you are going to be honest, why are we not getting the people of India to talk? The workers, the farmers, the factory workers, the investors, to the global investors. Because the CEOs obviously want it, the government obviously wants it. But let them hear the guy that works at the factory shop, at the factory floor, because what they've heard is, oh, they're all rebelling. Let them hear them. They're saying the farmers are all unhappy. Let them hear them. You know, they're saying the traders don't know what to do. They're shutting shop. Let them hear them.
Or it's unsafe, that the country is unsafe and there's security issues.
Yeah.
You know, talk to various people, find out what's really happening, and, you know, something like that.
Something like that. I mean, that's even just a kernel of an idea, but then we're not in competition as far as.
But if you take the BBDO notion of loving yourself, I think Shekhar's is the best answer.
Right.
Actually show people who actually make India tick, and have them, in their own ways, talk about how happy they are doing what they're doing in India. That could be a far more powerful message.
Amitabh, if I can get you in, you heard the three panelists here talking about the BBDO campaign. Yeah. Your view on that, and I also want to want you to talk about their whole, you know, they had a water take in the campaign as well.
Well, rebooting India is more than just mere advertising, and you know, a branding campaign works when you are able to differentiate the destination. I think differentiation is the key. Now, to my mind, a campaign of this nature works on two different principles. One is, you know, one must be clear that we're trying to focus on investors from across the world. This is essentially a film to appeal to the hearts and minds of global investors. Now, what the BBDO film does is that it looks at the emotional or the intangible aspects. And to that extent, while its emotional connect is very good for a tourism film, for trying to bring in tourists or to bring in the cultural dimension of a destination, it fails miserably as far as global investors are concerned. I'm also not a great believer in having global ambassadors. So to that extent, the film fails miserably.
That was the jury deliberation round. You saw this jury break down all the three campaigns, concept by concept, idea by idea. But we're going to take a short breather now, and when we come back, the jury will come to a consensus on which campaign stands out as the most effective. With that, in just a moment, stay tuned.